Welcome back to all our listeners. It's that time of the week again, where we discuss all things FPL on the First 45 podcast, brought to you by Craig and Darren.
Hello, you're listening to the First 45 podcast, and with me is Mr. Editor, Craig. How are you, Craig?
I am very well, yes. It feels a bit strange not having Darren around, doesn't it?
It does. Probably
disappoint a few listeners as well.
I did bump into him the other day, and him and his fiancée are doing very well.
Good.
Looked a little bit tired, but they were in very good spirits and very, very happy couple. So I think all is going well in Darren's household at the moment.
Good to hear.
So yeah, it's good stuff, and I hope they're both doing well.
He's hopefully only got this is his last week off, and he's going to come back, isn't he, to do the last few pods before the end of the season. We've only got 3 game weeks left, and in fact, I think we actually have a mid-game week, don't we? So potentially we might actually only be putting out another couple of pods before the end of the season. And Dazza has said that he would like to get back into it before the end of the season. But at the moment, he really does have his hands tied with 1-week-old twins. God bless him.
Very busy man. I mean, what a week it's been as well. I mean, let's dive into your team first before I get my rant out of the way.
Yeah, well, look, as you say, it's what a week. I mean, we had the protests, the postponements. Now we've got a triple game week on our hands. I'm literally blown away by it all. Really, it's like you wait for one bus and you get 2 arriving at the same time. Just everything's happening all at once, and it's hard to keep up. So it's probably good that we are creeping to the end of the season, because I can imagine quite a lot of people are suffering a bit of FPL burnout at the moment. My team, how did I get on? Well, there were a couple of reluctant transfers for me this week. I didn't really want to get rid of either Mendy or Rudiger, to be honest, with the way that Chelsea are playing, but I also didn't want to be left a little bit shy in game week 36, having planned to play my free hit this game week. And so there I did make those moves. I moved out Mendy and Rudiger. Rudiger move was made easier, of course, because of the injury. So I brought in Meslier and Dallas, who have some good fixtures coming into the season. We'll probably get into that a little bit later. It didn't obviously work out. Just the 3 points from the 2 of them. Brighton obviously came to the fore in that game week, winning 2-0. So that wasn't any good at all. But actually saying that, I was actually rescued by the same team that put me to my misery with the Meslier and Dallas moves, because I actually had Welbeck and Veltman on the bench, which was very nice. I was always going to get Veltman's points, so it wasn't too jammy from that side, because Holding didn't play, and nor did Diaz. So, I was going to get those points. It was good to have him on the bench, but the Welbeck points was very jammy indeed. I've had a couple of messages about that. So, Welbeck 12-pointer in what was an absolute carnage game week. I was very happy. And Captain Kane, rubbish. Points 44, 18 of those were from the Brighton boys, a rank rise of just 1k from 12k to 11k, so that's me, so pretty good really.
Very good under the circumstances, I would say.
Yeah.
I look at that with a lot of envy, to be honest.
How did you get on?
Well, for me, I was rolling over my transfer. I'd made my -4 the week before, bringing in Greenwood, thinking about the game weeks ahead. Made a bit of a balls up though. I actually didn't make my captain change, and that punished me heavily in the end. Obviously, I was, not to be aware of the fact that the Liverpool Man United game at Old Trafford was going to get postponed, but I made the fatal error of having a captain and a vice captain
in the same game. We've talked about it as well, haven't we, this season, because of COVID?
Yeah, this season that's a massive no-no with COVID and stuff like
dear.
that. So
still horrible.
Got heavily punished on captain, but I also had 5 players in that fixture, so none of them played. I had players that didn't play, like Diaz as well, so it was only 25 points for me, and quite a heavy rank drop from 46k down to 68k. Oof. So this
not great.
Really did piss me off, to be honest.
36 should look pretty good for you. Sorry, 36. 35 should look pretty good for you though, with those guys. They've got the doubles, and of course, United have got the triple game week as well. Not that I'm expecting many of those players to cover the 3 games, but
the extra transfer is helpful as well, because it does give me an option to move some of them out when they blank as well. So I've got a little bit of wiggle room to get out of that scenario. But it's just a shame that it's probably put me out of the running in our mini league, and on that front. But other than that, I'm still pretty happy with mine.
Yeah, you've still got to remain glass half full.
And
Like you said, you've got the good
games to go still. So
yeah, you've got the good players there, mate, that will hopefully bring you back up into that top 50k this week. And then, of course, the light is at the end of the tunnel. Excellent.
Yeah, should we crack on into our features for today's show?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a long sigh there, Joey.
Yeah. Well, we've got a lot to cover, so let's get stuck in.
Let's do it. What we got?
First of all, we're thinking about captaincy. Obviously, this week now, with it being a triple game week, is it just a very clear and obvious Bruno Fernandes option, or are you thinking it's something maybe a bit different? What's your thoughts on
I think straightforward. I think it's quite simple. I don't think there should be any overthinking this week. I think, given Bruno's performances since joining the Premier League, he's likely to get 2 of those games as well. That's enough, right? I mean, we've talked about it before. He's averaged around 8 points per game since joining the Premier League in FPL. What is there not to like with the 3 games? As I said, I can see him getting considerable minutes in at least 2 of the games. So you'd like to think that he could chalk up a 15-point haul. So outside of Bruno, I don't see it. And if you don't own him, I just feel like you have to get him in. Even if it's for a -4, you've got to do it. Be wise. Don't try and be creative or stupid or kind of like ignorant to him as a player. And of course, that as the option, I think you've got to go for it. I would say absolutely categorically make sure you bring him in. I mean, look, outside of that, even if you do have him, as I said, I think you do need him at the very, very least. I think he's definitely the one to captain. But if you are, again, in a circumstance where you believe your mini league leader is going to captain him and you want to try something different because, you're not too fussed about other stuff. Yeah, you're chasing and you want something to happen. And even if you're maybe in those kind of, few 100k rank positions, you want to just have a boost because at the end of the day, this is a game, then Salah is a good option. I think he's got some very good numbers. Over the last 6 game weeks, he leads the expected goals average per game with actually 0.84 expected goals across those last 6 game weeks. And Fernandes, in fact, has only amassed a figure of 0.29 goals per game as an average in comparison over that same time period. I know Salah's actually played a couple of less games. I think he's only played 4 games in that period of time. But that said, I mean, the numbers are there. The shots are there. The shots in the box are there. Salah is a very good option. I would actually, certainly be considering him. I've said at the start here, not to think outside of Bruno, but if you do want to, I think it's none other than the Egyptian king himself. Yeah.
I mean, I can understand you saying that as well. You're, in a mini league perspective, you're slightly chasing as well. You're at the, you're right towards the head of the pack, but you're obviously going to be thinking as well in our sort of personal circumstances that you might want to take a gamble there and
possibly
roll the dice, but
possibly.
At the same time, it's still there's still more football to be played yet, and that might be future game weeks where rolling the dice might be a bit more fruitful, shall we say?
Yeah, agreed.
So with this triple game week now, I can't remember ever having to say that before, but who are you looking at bringing in?
Well, actually, I'm currently on free hit, so I'm going to play it. I'm not going to play it in 36 where there are blanks, of course, because I, assumptively made those moves based on 36 in 34, bringing in Melia and Dallas, which actually gives me 11 players. So I don't need to utilise the free hit chip in that week. I can put out an 11, all being well, no injuries. Obviously, if there's one, I still have one transfer to play with anyway, so we can see how that goes. If I was in the shop window and wasn't on free hit, I would actually look at, none other than Manchester United, of course. It's obvious, but if you don't own too many of their players at the moment, if you perhaps only have Bruno, Shaw and Maguire would be top of my shopping list, and maybe Greenwood as well. Greenwood's posting some really nice numbers recently. His expected goals in the last 6 game weeks is 2.53. He has actually managed 4 goals. He's overperformed a little bit, but the numbers are there. And when you consider that the only other players to beat him that are doubling in this game week are Salah, Iheanacho and Havertz, he's right up there. He's right, obviously, at the top of that pecking order for the double game week. So Greenwood is someone that I would consider. And in fact, looking at the expected goals Fernandes isn't even in the top 10 over the last six game weeks. So, it's definitely food for thought there. And if we were to perhaps look outside of United, as we know, the Maguire-Shaw thing, that's a tough one. Just to go back there a second, Maguire or Shaw, I think that's a toss-up 50-50. Shaw's got the attacking numbers. He is the creative outlet now for United. It looks like he's sort of taking the mantle off of Bruno Fernandes at the moment because he's taking all the corners. He I don't think will play both, all three. Because like you said, we haven't had a triple. Always use the word both, not three. Yeah. He's not going to play the 3 games, I don't think. I think Tellez will come in and play at least one of those. And again, Tellez actually then sometimes takes the corners as well. So perhaps that does diminish Bruno's output or potential a little bit. I think Maguire might play all 3. I think he's probably one of the only maybe 2 or 3 players that could. That's probably Henderson is another option that could play 3 games. But we might see De Gea come into the sticks, as the time period between the 3 games is crazy, right? You're talking like 5 days. You're talking like Saturday game, a Monday game, and then a Wednesday game. That's madness, absolutely madness.
Yeah, so craziness, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. In fact, actually, I think is it Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday? I can't remember actually. Yeah, it's Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. Yeah, so that's absolutely crazy. So over the space of 5 days, they've got to play 3 games. I don't really see many of their players playing all of them, to be honest. But maybe Harry Maguire is one that might. He hasn't missed any games this season, and he seems to be the sort of the go-to man at the centre back position for them. Lindelof and Bailly may sort of rotate through those games.
What do you think about Aaron Wan-Bissaka on that front? Because he looks like a bit of an ever-present in United's position. It doesn't seem many people really giving him much of a push this season. And do you think he's going to get all 3, or have you kind of ruled that one out?
That's a really good question, and I guess I haven't mentioned him because perhaps I have subconsciously ruled him out for the sort of 3 games. Like I said, I don't think anyone will get the 3 games, to be honest. As you said, Wan-Bissaka has got some attacking output as well, so he's one to consider. 2 goals, 3 assists this season's not to be sniffed at. There isn't really any cover there. The only perhaps player that could play there is Brandon Williams. I know he hasn't really played an awful lot this season. In fact, I don't think he's even played in the Premier League for Manchester United. I'm just having a quick look.
I think he's had a couple of minutes.
Yeah, look,
he's had 7 minutes of football.
Yeah, 7 minutes.
2 substitute appearances. So
exactly, there 2 subs, no starts, 7 minutes. Again, that wouldn't fill me with an awful lot of confidence that he's going to play a game. But that said, we're talking about very unique situation here where they're having to play games in very quick turnaround. So you could see him perhaps resting Wan-Bissaka because he is obviously very valuable to them, and they of course are likely to be in the Europa League final. What with that 6-2 result. Of course, we are recording during the game, so we don't know the outcome just yet. But you'd expect that they've got 1 foot in the door of that Europa League final. So with that in mind, you don't want to get Wan-Bissaka injured. You get Wan-Bissaka injured, then you have to rely on young Williams to basically fill the void in the final, which there is their big end push to the season. So yeah. I think if I summarise here for United, I think you have to be looking at one of maybe Maguire or Shaw, and then perhaps going for Fernandes and maybe Greenwood. And outside of that, you could always do the kind of Henderson, then one of Maguire and Shaw route as well. So you've kind of got like 2 defensive cover there, and Fernandes as well. I mean, I'm almost certain that Henderson gets 2 games at the very least. So yeah.
With De Gea being the Europa League goalkeeper as well.
Exactly, he's getting something, isn't he?
Yeah, he is getting game time. I mean, that's where Chelsea might be interested now as well, getting into the Champions League final. You might see Mendy perhaps dip out altogether of Premier League fixtures now, which will be a frustration for many of us who own him.
Yeah,
I'm sure, because a lot of us probably have him without cover now. So there might be a potential forced move that some of us might be into there at some point.
Yeah, good idea there as well. I mean, look, and again, to talk about players outside of obviously just focusing on the triple game week, which United have. Zaha actually is in my free hit. I know there's been a lot of noise about him because of the fixtures. Again, Sheffield United away and Southampton away. 2 teams there that have terrible defensive stats. I think they're certainly both of them are in the bottom 3 for shots conceded and perhaps expected goals as well. So you can see why Zaha isn't a lot of people's thinking. I think with Zaha, though, it's just his inconsistency for me that's putting me off, and I'm likely to maybe look at other options. And I guess if I was to put them in preference, I'd be looking at maybe Maddison. Brendan has said he's close to full fitness. So I really like the fact as well that they've got the big gap between the two games. Hopefully he and the other Leicester boys, will get off to a flyer in the first game on Friday, and then they've got 3 days off before they go and face United, where, of course, we all know that United's fixtures, those three, are very congested. So you expect rotation, you expect Leicester to come in that firing on all cylinders with the sort of 3 days rest versus United's 1, which is quite significant. So
it's crazy, really, because you think that in the end, that postponement, that could potentially, I know Liverpool have only got perhaps a slim chance of Champions League qualification at the moment, but that really could end up handing Leicester definite Champions League spot. That postponement really could end up costing Liverpool Champions League football in the end. By Leicester sneaking in there and picking up some extra points.
Yeah. I would. I don't rule that out. I think Leicester could easily go and get 6 points in the 2 games in this double game week. I cannot see them losing or even drawing against Newcastle. I can't see it. Of course, stranger things have happened in Newcastle. Were fighting for their life, but I think they've perhaps got one eye on the beach or sort of some sort of staycation this summer. What with them being relatively safe now, so I think Leicester will turn them over quite convincingly on Friday. And as you say, they've got 3 days rest, and they're gonna definitely see an advantage from that. What with Man United being chopping and changing the team around and only having sort of 24 hours rest before games, or and 48 hours if you consider literally when they actually finish at around 90 minutes and then have to literally go back out there on the field. They've got 48-hour turnaround, which is absolutely madness. So I think Leicester is kind of like try to own 3 players. Maddison would be right up there for me. I do like Sadio Mane. He's well out of form. He's well out of form at the moment, but he's another one that perhaps I think could go big in this game week. He is underperforming, yes. He looks a touch jaded. But the rest, as a result of the postponement and the fact that they play Saturday and then they next play again on Thursday. So again, Liverpool have benefited quite a lot this season. I've seen it a few times in some of these double game weeks that they've had. They have had a big gap, and that's one thing that I saw when I triple captain Salah for those whopping 4 points that he had, I think, back in sort of double game week 18. But there was a massive gap, and so I obviously, of course, expected Salah to sort of start both. And I have a funny feeling that I think he actually didn't start both. I think he came on, didn't he, from the bench in the second game, which was mind-blowing considering that Liverpool had this big gap. But again, Liverpool have a big gap in a double game week. As I said, they play Saturday, and then they go and play United on Thursday. So again, they've got 4 days rest before they have to play United, and United would have played 2 Premier League games in the last 3 days or 4 days prior to that, which is just madness. So again, I see someone like Sadio Mane with the rest. He could come out and he's an explosive option if you are looking to climb the ranks, especially if you're on free hit like I am. So again, another one that I'm considering. But if you're not on free hit, it's one to think about.
That one's also just worth looking at the fixtures on as well, because they've got United, obviously, it's their second header. Oh, I mean, their fixtures are fantastic. They've got the second game of their double game week on the 13th of May, but then they play 3 days later, so that's on the Thursday. Then they play West Brom away on the Sunday, which is the later game. That's at 4:30 UK time. Then they play Wednesday night against Burnley away, so you've only got a couple of days rest there again.
Yeah.
And then they have a bigger gap until Sunday for the last game of the season.
Absolutely.
On the 23rd of May. So it could end up even being a bit dicey with Liverpool, perhaps going into what are some potentially easier fixtures. There could be some rotation even possible there at the end, where you've just got, perhaps nothing to play for.
Possibly.
Like it's a slight concern at the moment, but obviously the door is still open for them.
The door is open, isn't it, for the Champions League?
They've got to keep playing to win at the moment.
I mean, look, it's very possible that they get the 6 points from the 2 games as well. And that of course, would mean that United actually lose to Leicester and Liverpool, which, again, on paper, because of that turnaround, if there was more time for United to recover and recuperate, then sure, I wouldn't be writing them off. But I think that turnaround time is absolutely abysmal for them, and then they're going to, of course, they're going to chop and change the team, and they're not going to really find too much fluidity. Whereas with Liverpool, I feel like the team that they roll out against Southampton, if they do well and perform, they'll probably play the same team against United. yeah. I mean, they almost certainly will, won't they? Let's be honest.
4-0.
Yeah, probably, quite possibly. Yeah, exactly. And then we'll all be ruining that we haven't actually perhaps put the actual captaincy armband on Salah. I mean, look, Salah is one of those sleeping giants, isn't he? His numbers are there. So yeah, I think to your point, Joe, I understand it, I get it. There's some turnaround time issues perhaps for Liverpool after the double game week. If you are looking to maybe bring a Mane in, you might have to chop and change to that. You might already own 3 players. If you own 2, maybe it's of consideration. If you're on free hit, maybe go for someone like him. Jota's numbers are better than Mane's without a shadow of a doubt. But again, if you're looking for that explosive option, he's one to consider. I think they'll be in the running. I think they'll be in with the sniff for the Champions League mathematically all the way up until the end, because I think they're going to pick up at least 6 or 7 points, I think, in the next few games.
Those games are just too good to turn down as well, aren't they?
They're very good, aren't they? You do have to have coverage. I mean, look, for me, I'm on free hit, and so I will roll back into the 3 assets after this free hit, and I'll have Jota, Salah and Trent. And to be honest, with only a few game weeks left, I'll probably focus my attention on other players if I need to. I'll just roll with those and just see what happens. Jota's still obviously a very nice price point that if he doesn't play, of course we can hopefully benefit from bench players, and you're not too fussed if he doesn't play at sort of around that 7 million mark. And I guess finally from my side here, I talked about Zaha, and perhaps he might move out of my free hit team. A couple of other players here to consider, would be Ward-Prowse and El Ghazi. I'm not too convinced on Ward-Prowse. I do like the fact that he's got all set pieces with Ings out. He's on penalties as well. That is likely his only route into the points, I would say, is through those set pieces. He doesn't really offer too much in the way of going forward and taking a lot of shots, etc.
And Southampton, just on that, Saints' last 20 games have only scored 16 goals.
Yeah.
So, we're not exactly firing. We're actually bottom of the form table in the last 20 games.
Yeah, not great at all. I mean, interestingly enough, it just goes to show how bad Vardy's form is as well. I had a look at some of the numbers, and Ward-Prowse's expected goals over the last 6 game weeks is 1.66. So again, he's slightly underperformed. He's only managed 1 goal in that time. Interestingly enough, Jamie Vardy's expected goals in the last, or across the last 6 game weeks, is only 1.68. So it just goes to show that the sort of different role that he's been playing. His other stats are pretty good as well. Again, the player probably I will have on a free hit, and I know some people still own Jamie Vardy. I wouldn't be looking to move him out, not with a double game week, to be honest. Even if you did need to move funds around, I'd probably keep hold of him. But it's just to put it into perspective that, a Ward-Prowse maybe is another alternative. But for me, one that I do really like, and I would actually consider, and he might even find his way into my free hit team. It just depends. At the moment, I'm kind of looking at a 3-4-3, and there's 4 players. I've got Fernandes, I've got Salah. I'm likely to maybe go with someone like a Maddison. I like Zaha, maybe an option. I don't think you can fit them all in really. And maybe if I looked at another Liverpool lad like Jota or Mane, then I'm perhaps not going to go with what I'm about to suggest. But El Ghazi, he's a greedy one. We saw that game where he had about 20 shots, didn't he? And he didn't pass the ball, and I don't know if he got too many of them on target, but there was one game about 6 or 7 game weeks ago where he was very greedy, and I think he actually did start that game. But interestingly enough, when I looked into the numbers for El Ghazi at Aston Villa, again, 2 home fixtures in the double, which I like. I like that. I like home fixtures. They've got United, yes, and they've got Everton next. And again, they've got a few days rest in between. I think United go pretty strong into that game against Villa away. What with, obviously with a few more games left, they're probably not likely to rotate as much. We'll have to see what happens tonight. But yeah, El Ghazi, I think the 2 home games, 8 goals for him from 12 starts this season. And, with 8 of his 11 sub appearances, he's actually come on 68 minutes or later. So again, it is actually worth looking at those numbers, the 8 goals and 12 starts, because you're not going to do too much in sort of 25 minutes thereabouts, from 8 sub appearances, right? You're just not going to get into the game. So when you look at it and break it down, those 8 goals and 12 appearances, or 12 starts, should I say, is pretty good. I like the idea of an El Ghazi. So again, if you're trying to fit a team together, or you haven't got too much budget, he is definitely someone that I would perhaps look to bring in. I like the look of him, and he might even creep into my free hit.
Cool. Let's go to our final point before we move on to community questions then. So looking forward a little bit further, let's talk about Game Week 36, where we've got Arsenal, Chelsea, Leicester and Manchester United with a blank. What players will you be looking at for those final 3 games, potentially to replace players that are blanking from those teams?
So I'll be looking at Leeds, Liverpool and West Ham. These are the teams that actually feature in the top 3 on the Fantasy Football fixture analyzer for most favourable attack difficulty. And to be honest, I actually completely agree. When I looked at that and I saw them in there, I completely agree with those 3 teams. So I guess if we start with Leeds, the likes of Rafinha, injury permitting, I think he comes back into the fore. Bamford as well, and maybe even Dallas. Since he often plays in the middle of the park and is always looking to get forward and take shots. He was actually very unlucky in the game against Brighton. If anyone missed it, he narrowly missed the goal. He narrowly missed scoring with his shot, which just went wide of the post. So when you look at who they are playing from sort of 36 onwards, they're going to be playing Burnley away, Southampton away in 36, 37. And then in 38, they've got West Bromwich Albion at home. Those 3 fixtures are pretty nice. Again, a couple of teams in there, particularly with Southampton and West Brom, that have shipped in a lot of goals this season, certainly of late. They look a little bit out at sea. And then most will be
nothing to play for as well.
No,
that's likely for all of them games. So,
nothing to play for really for anyone. I think even West Brom, perhaps they might already be relegated by the time that they play them at the end of the season. I almost am convinced of that. So I think we could see a relatively open game. Perhaps West Brom might get in the goals because they'll I guess the shackles will be off. They might have already been relegated and they want to go out in fashion, in style. But I can see goals in those 3 games for Leeds. So I think those attacking assets will come back into question. And I guess most will be sorted for Liverpool assets, but for those that perhaps have moved off of Jota, and I've seen it, they might have moved. I've seen Jota to Bale transfers. Fantastic. Big round of applause to those managers that did that in the game week just gone. But Jota has been moved out of some teams in sort of recent weeks. What with him seemingly getting rotated, and of course we did actually see the lineup, didn't we, with regards to the postponed fixture, Man United Liverpool. I saw it. Managed to get a sneaky check of that before actually it was called off, and Jota was actually on the bench. So who knows what's going on there? But if you don't own him, I think I'd still consider bringing him back for those fixtures. I think he's going to get enough game time and justify that price point. And if you don't own one of Trent Alexander-Arnold or Robertson, I would encourage as well to look at these with their final 3, because they've got West Bromwich Albion away in 36, 37. They've got Burnley away, and then they've got Crystal Palace at home in 38 in the final game of the season, and they're very likely to have things to play for, being in touching distance of those Champions League spots. It could, mathematically, it could still be on the cards right until the last game. So again, West Brom featuring in those final 3 games for Liverpool as well. Look, over the last 6 game weeks, no team has actually landed more shots on target than Liverpool. So they've actually managed 33 shots on target as a team from just 4 games, which is quite astonishing, really, isn't it? Big stat. So I think you've got to have three Liverpool assets. I'll be looking to have 3 assets, I think, from Liverpool. My free hit currently only have 2. I literally only have Trent and Salah in on my free hit. But do I go Robertson? Probably not. Could I fit a Jota in? Maybe. But again, like I said, the space is a premium in that midfield. What with me likely to have Vardy, Iheanacho, and maybe Calvert-Lewin is another option or for me on my free hit. If that is the case, then 4 players there potentially for the midfield spot. So can I get Jota and Amane in? Not sure about that, but I'll maybe look to it, considering the output is there for Liverpool. They have been attacking. They have looked a little bit more like their old selves. They perhaps just haven't got the goals as we saw in their last game. And again, finally, West Ham, the other team that I referenced there, of the 3 that have the sort of the most favourable fixture difficulty from an attacking perspective. Again, they play West Bromwich Albion in game week 37, so they will actually face Brighton and Hove Albion, of course, away in 36. Then West Bromwich Albion away in 37, and then Southampton again. They are also in there as well. Again, another team that we've obviously referred to, looking at Liverpool and Leeds, and again a team that of course, are not exactly defensively strong at the moment. So after Antonio's brace away against Burnley in game week 34, I think you'll see a few more suitors come 36 for him, and maybe Lingard as well if he's been moved out by anybody.
Great. Before we move on to community questions, actually, I was going to throw a random question at you from me, which is just because I've probably seen enough now. But what are you thinking about some of the City and Chelsea assets? I mean, players like Diaz now, since we've all used our wild cards back in sort of circa 31, he's barely featured, and you've had other players sort of rotating in and out from those sides. Are you going to be looking to offload those sorts of players on the run-in now? Yeah,
good point. I think Diaz is one that certainly is a bit of a cash cow. If he's not playing, we might be able to benefit from some of the more cheaper assets, like maybe a Dallas or someone like that. That's of course almost $1 million cheaper. So I do see that you could perhaps move around. What with those fixtures there? West Ham, another one that I've been absolutely amazed by this year is Vladimir Sufel. I think he's been absolutely phenomenal. He's got 8 assists this year, which is crazy. I think he's got 3 or 4 assists in his last 4 or 5 games. Off the top of my head, I think it's actually 4 assists. I haven't got it in front of me. But again, another player that, as I've just referred to there, West Ham have a very favourable run-in from 36 to 38. Again, this is a guy that's only costing 4.7 million. He's another one that you could move to if you don't already own him. So again, you can move away from a Diaz. I haven't actually thought that far ahead because I'm focused on the free hit. I brought in those 2 Leeds lads to basically give me a squad for 36. So I've got a team at the moment. But 37 and 38, if I need some money and I've got the 2 transfers or the 2 frees going into 37 or 38, unlikely that I'll have 2 going into 37, but maybe for 38, I might need to move someone like a Diaz out because, as you said, he's not playing as much as he was. He's been rested a couple of times in recent weeks, and of course, City have other priorities. I can almost certainly see Nathan Ake coming into the fold for the last couple of games. If they've won the league, why not have a bit of fun? Give the guy some game time. They obviously rate him relatively highly, and he was pretty good at Bournemouth, to be honest. He needs some experience, so they'll probably chuck him in, alongside a Laporte. So he probably won't see players like Stones and Diaz in the running, and you might see a bit more of Cancelo because I've seen obviously he hasn't perhaps featured as much. Walker's been absolutely phenomenal in the last few game weeks, and certainly obviously in the Champions League as well. He's looked brilliant, and he hasn't lost an ounce of that speed that he had as a youngster. He's going toe to toe with Mbappe in the first leg. So I think have a bit of fun with that. Move some of those players around, and I guess with the Chelsea assets, it will be much the same. That they're focusing on the FA Cup final against Leicester, and then they've obviously got a Champions League tie against City. So you might see the likes of Rudiger not playing as much, not featuring as much. Certainly, Azpilicueta, he's obviously someone that's at the twilight of his career. He won't be getting too much game time. I wouldn't have been thought in the Premier League if they can sort of wrap up that top 3 spot, if they can get that, if they can get a couple of wins in the next couple of games, which obviously is very possible. Might not get too much change out of City in this game week, but they have got Arsenal at home next, and you sort of can see something happening there, and then actually securing their top 4 place. So again, it will be very much focused on the FA Cup and Champions League tie. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I think it is maybe time to start looking at moving them on. I don't need to do it right now. I have moved out Rudiger and Mendy, so I'm already maybe one step ahead on that front. But I have still got Diaz, and that is my only City asset. And so yeah, I mean, I might again, even from a nostalgia perspective, who knows? I might even bring in someone like maybe Aguero for sort of 37 or 38 or something like that. Still might have a bit of fun with it. We might be able to predict Pep a little bit if things have been wrapped up and he's focusing. You can kind of maybe guess which players he might give a bit of game time to. Sterling hasn't featured too much recently. Aguero is obviously not likely to stay at the club. I think he's pretty much announced the fact that he's going to leave. So again, a couple of players there that have explosive game weeks in them, and the players that you could maybe move to. So move around some of those more premium ones that have played a lot, and maybe look at some of those differentials.
Brilliant. Right, let's move on to community questions, which are your questions, our listeners' questions, that are fired at us weekly on Twitter at our account at First45Pod. The first 2 we've got here, which are from FPL Teacher and FPL Rookie, are around the same sort of thing. So I'm going to kind of lead with FPL Teacher's version of affairs.
Okay.
So they were originally they've actually gone for the free hit in 35, or pretty much had it set in stone. They're now thinking that maybe 36 is the way forward with their free hit. Now they're even thinking that maybe even having the free hit the last game of the season.
Right.
Whereas FPL Rookie is thinking perhaps is it a free hit in 35 or free hit in 36 with different numbers of starters and potentially having to take a hit. Obviously, you're kind of wading in this week with a free hit.
Yeah.
What would you think about possibly game week 38, and also thinking about game week 36 versus taking points? What's your kind of views on that?
Yeah, I guess it's hard to answer because having a look at these questions here, as you say, you've referred to the fact that perhaps they might have slightly different circumstances, right? One might have say 7 to 9 doublers, and the other might only have say 4 or 5 doublers in game week 35. And again, I've made the sort of choice to play the free hit to have 11. Of course, it very much depends on what your situation is for 36. If you can't string 9 players together, then maybe you should be looking at. And when I say 9 players, I sort of mean if you can't string 9 players together, even with a -4 or 1 or 2 transfers, then you almost certainly want to be looking at moving that free hit into 36 if you haven't already hit the button. I think that is wise. And, if you can get to, say, 9 to 11 players with a -4 or a -8, then maybe you should play the free hit now and try to capitalise now. With FPL, sometimes you sort of live in the moment, right? We haven't got very many game weeks left anyway. So try to get something happening now based on what you know. A lot can change next week. A few players could get injured, and then, of course, you don't actually have them as options. And then you might go back to the drawing board, and all of a sudden, you're looking back at it with regret because you feel like you should have actually played that free hit this week. So I think it's very circumstantial. If you're really struggling in 36 and you can't really put a team together, I'd say move the free hit to there, because there of course are some very significant blanks. What with Arsenal, Chelsea, Leicester and Man United not playing, and again most people having at least 4 assets from those clubs, maybe even sort of 5 or 6 assets. It does make it very difficult. Try to maybe keep hold of a couple of transfers, but play your own game. But look at it like if you feel like you're comfortable this game week, and you've got enough coverage, and you've got the big guys, and you certainly got Bruno in there as well that you can perhaps captain. Yeah, you've got your options open there. I think you can maybe move that free hit to say 36, and maybe even have a bit more fun with it and move it to 38 if you feel like you're well covered in 36 as well.
I guess that's the thing. The point you made a few moments ago about 36 is that you might get to 38 and play it arbitrarily because you've got it, but in reality you might have missed a real opportunity there. And I guess I've done that sort of thing in the past, and you can get to game week 38 and it's a damp squib. You basically end up in a scenario where you play it and not really much happens. Nothing major is gained by using it, and you kind of feel like, oh, why did I do that? Because, in reality, teams haven't got much to play for. That. You get odd results. You get a lot fewer clean sheets generally at that point of the season. Especially, I can imagine with fans perhaps coming back for home supporters in these games. I can imagine that there might be, a fair few goals in some of these later games. Personally, I wouldn't keep it to 38. I'd be rolling the dice with it before then. But that's
good
just
point,
me.
Joe.
Cool. Okay, so next question is from Alter Ego. Very simple one. Watkins or DCL? I think you've kind of covered some of that in previous pods recently, and it's kind of lived up to the billing. And from certainly what I've listened, you talking, Greg, you've kind of leaned more towards Watkins there.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I actually have. Yeah, and I think Watkins' numbers have definitely been better than Calvert-Lewin's, without a shadow of a doubt. I don't go back on any of that. And of course, look, he's done well again this game week by amassing 8 points, which is brilliant. So he's kind of back to his kind of consistent self, and he's been pretty consistent all season, to be honest. Coming into this game week, though, I've got a slightly different mindset. Maybe it's because of the fixtures. Villa do have United first. I think that's difficult. I think they'll have full strength there, and I think that's a little bit of a concern of mine. There's good assets this week. I think you kind of, if you'll have a Iheanacho perhaps, and maybe if you are on a free hit or you're looking to move someone in, I think Vardy has the good fixtures as well. I feel like with their gap and what's at stake for them, I feel like sort of tripling up on Leicester is not a bad idea. If you can move them out, of course. If you can't, then they have got the blank game week next. But going back to sort of the Watkins DCL debate there, really difficult. I think that, as I said, I think it comes down to fixtures for me. DCL did get a goal in the last game against Villa. So, that's promising. Good goal as well from a corner, from a Digne corner, back post, nice header. What you'd expect from a centre forward, kind of Kane-esque, and that's what he's looked like at times this season. Had a bit of a lull in the last sort of few game weeks, and I guess maybe that part of that is because he did have some time out, and again he missed 31 and 32, sort of. Prior to that, he played from game week 25 to 28, I believe it was, or 30, something like that. Obviously, they do blur, but then he did have some time out again in sort of the game week 24. We found an injury as well, so he's obviously carrying a few things. I think that's perhaps affected him a little bit. But again, from his last 4 starts, he still has 2 goals, so it's not all doom and gloom. And as I said, I think it's a fixture thing for me, and chiefly that Everton, yes, are away in both fixtures to West Ham and to Villa, but again they have enough rest. They have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is the gap between their game away at West Ham on Sunday and away to Villa on Thursday. So it's a tough call. It's very close to a 50-50. But the fact that Villa, again, they have those home games, and I mentioned that with El Ghazi earlier, but the fact that they've got United up first, I'm not expecting too much there. And again, with those forward spots being a premium, I like Calvert-Lewin. I think I would lean towards Calvert-Lewin this week, to be honest. If I had to, again, from my own personal perspective, I'm on free hit, I probably will have one of them. And if it's going to be one of them, it's almost certainly going to be Calvert-Lewin over Watkins.
Next question we've got is from Super Red, who, I'm guessing the red is a Manchester United reference there. Because the question is, what's the best 3 Manchester United choices? So you probably touched upon some of them earlier, but if you had to choose 3 yourself, which ones would they be for the triple game week?
At the moment, Maguire, Bruno, Greenwood.
Yeah. At
the moment, but that's not to say that's going to change. I might look to do Henderson and Shaw even, and Bruno, right? And again, I know what's going to come probably with Shaw. He's likely to be benched on one of them, and I expect Telles to play, but I'm maybe looking at that attacking output, and then perhaps I'm covering what I might get from, say, maybe a Maguire anyway by putting someone in like Henderson, because I'm actually not convinced by any other goalkeeper for this particular double game week. No one's jumping at me. So if I get 2 games from Henderson, am I okay with it? Yeah, probably. You might get no clean sheets, but I mean, I'm not getting too many clean sheet vibes from many. Maybe the dark horse out there is Guita at Palace. What with Sheffield United away and Southampton away, I think Southampton might score, but he might get 1 clean sheet out of those 2. I'm almost convinced he might get 1. He could get it against Saints, he could get it against Sheffield United. I feel like he's going to get something, and then maybe save points. So there could be a little 10-pointer there from Guita, and if that's the case, then maybe I don't need to go for a Henderson route because you've got good value there. But yeah, I'm not filled with confidence with Pickford, Martinez, or any of the other doublers. They don't fill me with any joy whatsoever. And I certainly wouldn't be touching the Southampton goalkeeper because we don't really know who that could be. It could be McCarthy or Forster. So if that's the case, and I do that, then I wouldn't obviously have the Bruno, Greenwood, and Maguire route. I might have Henderson, Shaw, and Bruno.
Yeah, cool. Got a couple more questions. One's from Lee Godfrey. So I think we've probably covered your points, Lee, which your question was anyway for everyone else. What teams or players should we be targeting for the double and blank game weeks? Hopefully you've got a really good idea of what we're covering there, because I think for us this is big considerations for the next fortnight.
So
hopefully
absolutely.
That's giving you some vibes on that.
Yeah, I think we've covered that relatively well tonight, Lee. So cheers for your question. Probably helped us shape some of the topics today. So thanks for that.
Yeah. And then the last question we've got is from Katie Louise. So they've asked captaincy choice, I think we've kind of stuck our necks out and said Fernandez.
Yeah.
And you've
Bruno
said
or
Salah as well, right?
Bruno or Salah. I mean, the numbers are there for Salah. It's like, look, we all know that Bruno's averaged a very, very sizable points tally per game, right? As an average across the sort of season and 3 quarters that he's played now, almost 2 seasons really, in the Premier League. So 3 games, you almost certainly go there. But I don't think Salah's far behind. People think I'm crazy maybe saying that because of the triple game week, but don't get blinded by it. I think Bruno will only play 2 of those games, and don't forget, one of those 3, in fact 2 of those 3 are against some very decent clubs in Leicester and Liverpool. So yeah, sure, Liverpool have to go and play United, but it's that congestion for United. I feel like it's going to cause them a right nuisance come the Thursday game, which is the Liverpool game. It's the last one of the 3. And of course, Liverpool have Southampton at home, which have been leaking in goals left, right and centre of late. So I would not be surprised if Salah outscores Bruno whatsoever.
We've seen it before, right? The amount of times you sit here and think there's a standout and then they know.
Yeah, everyone's saying Bruno. But for me, I honestly, everyone's saying that. I'm seeing it everywhere, but I'm personally saying that Salah and Bruno is actually a 50-50 call. Forget the extra fixture, because like I said, Bruno's likely only to play 2 of those anyway. And I think it's the congestion that's going to kill United a little bit in some of their prospects. But again, who knows? I see good game weeks from both of them, if I'm honest.
Yeah, agreed. Right, let's move on to Four-a-Side, which is our charity competition. Darren and Craig taking each other on. Loser pays £100 to Mind Charity. Also taking on FPL Twitter community. So if you guys at the FPL Twitter community beat Craig and Daz, they're going to get extra £50 out each. Current standings, we've got Daz in the lead on 296 points. He only scored 11 last game week. And you're catching him every week, Craig. You're in second place at the moment.
Getting there.
7 points behind.
Woo!
14 points the last game week. So definitely improving. FPL community is falling behind now. So they're in last place. 288 points.
Close.
Only 12 points in the last game week. But this week is a new game week.
Still more than Daz.
Yeah. You still catch him. So
no, the community's still more than Daz, even if they had a bad one.
Yeah. Bottom of the shop this week, Darren.
He is.
So this week we have got Duncan Butler, who is better known as FPL SWAT on Twitter.
Swatty.
He's got some absolute ranks in the past, so definitely a serious.
A good player, good little manager there, and a Saints fan. Oi, oi.
Yeah, and it's got a very interesting fact. So let's move along, and it will probably give you an understanding of his FPL pedigree.
Hello, my name is Duncan Butler, also known as FPL SWAT on Twitter. I've been playing fantasy games in their various guises since the day when you had to spend £15 on a premium phone line to enter your squad in the summer. These days I'm primarily on Twitter discussing FPL with the community, which I find is a really positive place and supportive area to discuss your frequent lows and occasional highs. Currently at 31k and hoping for some more green arrows before the end of the season. I'm pleased to be taking on Craig and Darren for Game Week 35 in the charity four-a-side competition and representing the community. No template temple for me. Something you might not know about me, I was once on Soccer AM as Saints Fans of the Week and played an 11-a-side game at the end with Ian Holloway and Thomas Hitzelsberger afterwards. I'm still recovering from Holloway berating my position in his back four. Okay, my picks are coming in at 24.2 million, and my first pick is my goalkeeper, Emi Martinez. He's got a double coming up versus United and Everton. He's the highest scoring goalkeeper, 5th highest in the game, 22 bonus points to goalkeeper, and he's become an absolute legend this season. So he's my goalkeeper. My defender will be Luke Shaw, coming in at 5.4 million. In the last 3 games, with clean sheets in for United, he's taken 8 bonus points. Since game week 22, he's top for goals and assists for defenders with 1 goal and 4 assists. And with Villa and Leicester coming up in the double, I can see potentially at least 1 clean sheet in there. In midfield, I really wanted to pick James Ward-Prowse as a Saints fan from the mighty SFC. However, I've gone with fixtures over form here, so I'm going to go for Wilf Zaha at 7.1 million from Crystal Palace. For me, this is all about the opposition. He's got a plum double in Saints and Sheffield United. Defensive data in the last 6 game weeks, Saints are 18th for expected goals conceded with 2.09 per game, and Sheffield United are bottom, 2.36 per game. So expecting returns there from Wilf Sahar. He scored in 33 versus Leicester, and this might be his last chance in the shop window, as he's at the ripe old age of 28 now. Finally, my striker, the man on everyone's lips, is Kelechi Iheanacho, 6.3 million. He's on fire at the moment. You can't look past him, particularly at that price. 11 attacking returns in 8 games. Top for XGI since game week 28 with 1.27 per game. Newcastle and Man United shouldn't hold any fear for him, really, particularly as Leicester have got an extra 2 days to prepare for that United game. So those are my 4 picks, boys. I'm here to represent the community, and we're trying to chase down that 9-point deficit, so brace yourselves. We're coming for you. Best of luck. Thanks for having me on. Take care.
Ray gives it the old template temple. He's been listening to the pods. Nice one, Dunk. Like it. Gone for Martinez in goal. Yeah, nice. Like I said, I'm not convinced by any real keeper options this week. If I'm honest. Yeah, sure. There he's got obviously with the triple game week. He's got Zaha as well, which we obviously talked about today, and Iheanacho, 4-man. Yeah, no, good team that. I think the community will do all right this week as a result of SWAT's team. Which is it's tight, as I said. It's not top to bottom here. We're only talking about 8 points.
Which is good. Could
8 points, right? Could be. Community go and pull it out. Me and Daz are throwing out a couple of £100 to Old Minds charity. So, like you said, they're only 9 points away, just 9 points away from Daz. So, topping him.
One thing actually, before I forget, because we didn't mention it in the last pod.
Yeah.
We obviously tweeted before about a little wager that me and Darren have got set up. So we have confirmed the loser is going to be cleaning the winner's car. So at the moment, I am lagging behind. But I'm feeling confident. I got a different car the other day, so I'm looking forward to getting it cleaned, Darren.
How many points are you behind, Joe? You started it from that game week,
more than. Yeah, we started from a couple of game weeks ago. I think it's probably about 10 behind. So
okay, it's all right. It's not too bad. It's not too bad.
I actually gained a point on him last week, I think. So
we will have to get a picture of that as well. That will definitely get tweeted.
Anyway, let's dive onto the team. So, Craig, perhaps
I'll dive straight in.
It's
a shame we haven't got Dazza here, but as I said, he's a little bit preoccupied with his twins. We do our draft. To be honest, we're going to give you some time back. Who did I go for this week with my 4-side? Well, I've gone with that big man Schmeichel in goal from Leicester. To start with, reason why I've gone here is because I feel like they might get a clean sheet against Newcastle, and I'm not kind of backing any keeper to do too well this game. I can't predict it, but that home fixture against Newcastle is quite nice for Leicester. Then, obviously they've got United next, which could be difficult for them, particularly as they're away. But again, they're going into that game. Again, we've talked about it a lot tonight with that congestion hanging over United's head. So fingers crossed, Schmeichel can do a job for me there. I've then got Maguire at the back. Talked about him a bit today. Fancy him maybe to get the 3 games, and I need every point I can get. Even 1 point appearance will be good for me at the moment. Only being sort of 7 points behind Daz now. Greenwood, talked him up a lot. He's currently my free hit. Like him. I know Daz has got him in his team alongside Maddison, where his 2 transfers a couple of game weeks back. So, I know he's all over that too. And then the main man as well, just like Duncan, FPL SWAT, I've got Iheanacho, can't not. So we did a draft, didn't we? Again, it was my first pick. I'm still behind, so I've had first pick now for about the last, 7 or 8 game weeks.
Yeah.
Poor old Dazza, but I'm still lagging. And be interested to see what Dazza went for. What did he go for?
Yeah, so in goal, he's gone for Dean Henderson of Manchester United. Obviously, we've talked about him. You'd expect him to be playing at least 2 of the games for United. In defence, he's gone for Castagna of Leicester. So, again, a nice solid pick there, who's got attacking returns in his back pocket as well, potentially. Yeah. In midfield, he's gone for Pogba, which I know he's talked about, Pogba. He's obviously fancied his attacking play and eyes on Pogba in the last few game weeks. So, he's forked out some dollar there to pay for him, really.
Yeah,
and in attack, he's opposed your DCL opinions, and he's gone for Watkins in attack for Aston Villa. So
if it wasn't Iheanacho, I probably would have gone for Calvert-Lewin in this. So he's got baby brain maybe. It's a 50-50. It's a 50-50. Watkins could easily go and outscore DCL in this double game week. Yeah, there's going to be some interesting outcomes, but I think we've obviously covered a lot of players tonight, so hopefully that's obviously given our listeners some food for thought.
Indeed. So I think that's about it from us otherwise, Craigie.
Yeah, that's it, my friend.
Hope you all have a good game week, and looking forward to coming back and talking to you about the blank game week 36.
Nice one.
All the best, mate.
Cheers, buddy. Laters on.
Take
Cheers,
care,
guys.
everyone.
Look after yourself.